Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heart lines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. The political landscape of America is changing, and socialism is rearing its head in a more profound way than any other previous time in our history. Conservatism is being redefined, and the Bible, if even referenced, is no longer the foundation upon which America is built. Here to talk about what's going on in America today is Joe Newby of ConservativeFiringLine.com. Joe is a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps who wrote for Examiner.com for 6 years. His articles have also appeared in Newsbusters, Spokane Faith and Values, and other sites across the web. He currently runs Conservative Firing Line, where he discusses important issues important to conservatives. He's the co-author of Banned, How Facebook Enables Militant Islamic Jihad, and he appears here on Revealing the Truth on the first Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour. Here to bring us up to date on America Gone Wild is Joe Newby. What an appropriate time for us to get together. We're on the verge of a State of the Union address. We've just gone through a ridiculous fiasco of an impeachment Schiff, Adam Schiff.
The Adam Schiff show, yes, the Adam Schiff and sham impeachment show, yes, and they're doing the closing arguments today. In fact, this morning, looks like they're not going to get to acquit Donald Trump until sometime Wednesday. After the State of the Union, but that's what it's looking like, and of course we've got all of the usual suspects out saying all of the usually crazy, insane things, and I got to tell you, Eric, the media has just gone completely full tilt, just stupid. The stupid overwhelms over at MSNBC and CNN. Here just the other day, there was some guy over at MSNBC who actually put forth seriously the idea that if Donald Trump wins, if he is acquitted, that he's going to stop voting in California.
You know, the things that are being made up. One of the, I watched some of the impeachment hearings because I wanted to hear, and Jay Sekulow, I've known Jay and his brother Scott for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear these constitutional lawyers who have pleaded cases before the Supreme Court, what they had to say.
Right.
And the overarching statement they made, which just never seemed to become the focal point, was that this obstruction of Congress, they did not follow the rules by having an impeachment vote to empower this committee, the House Intelligence Committee, to investigate anything. So they had no subpoena power, no authority. And the White House responded to them saying that until you have a vote, you don't have any authority. So they even coached them what to do.
Right. Well, there's a lot of irregularities here. It looks like the Democrats just basically threw out all of the House rules. They refused to let Republicans bring forth witnesses. They refused to let the Republicans have a day so they could answer with their own witnesses. They threw out any idea, any notion of due process whatsoever over on the House side, and what we have from Schiff and Nadler and the whole crew is a lot of innuendo, a lot of lies. Every word that comes out of their mouth, Eric, is either a direct bald-faced lie, or it's an innuendo uh, based upon the previous lies that they've told. So my I tell you what, Eric, in my view, I would love to see uh, Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi, and all of these Democrats who have put America through hell for the last 3 years. I would love to see them brought up on charges of seditious conspiracy.
The whole House is up for reelection, and a third of the Senate is up for reelection in
Yes.
November. How do you think that's going to play out in these congressional districts? Looking at the Adam Schiffs, looking at the Nancy Pelosi's, are they really that powerful that in their districts that they can carry and be reelected with this such a waste of time between the Mueller investigation and this impeachment? And they've been talking about it since Donald Trump won the election, that they were going
Yeah.
to find a way to impeach him.
To get rid of him, right? Well, I can't speak for all of the districts across the country. There are some, of course, like Pelosi, perhaps like Schiff, where unfortunately they do have enough within their districts to get reelected. Look at how many times Pelosi has been reelected so far. Um, but I do think that the Democrats are going to end up losing a majority in the House. I do think that's going to happen because people are frankly fed up with what they're seeing the Democrats do. Um, the divide in this country, Eric, is nothing like I have ever seen it in my entire life. So yes, you're going to have those, uh, who are uninformed, and let's face fact, that's what they are. They're sadly uninformed. If all they ever do is watch MSNBC and CNN, they're never going to get the truth about anything, quite frankly. Um, so yes, I do think that there are those in the Democrat Party who will stay in power, but I think as a whole, I think the Democrats are going to end up losing the majority.
If they lose the majority and the House of Representatives and the Senate have a Republican majority, what will that do? What will we see come out of that? Because that'll be a 4-year period where any Supreme Court appointee, any legislation that is part of the platform of the second term of the president is, if it's got support within the party, is going to virtually be veto-proof and completely supported. So what impact would that have on the country? What can be done if all of Congress was controlled by the Republicans?
Well, insane times, I would like to tell you, Eric, that everything would get fixed. The deep state would would be finally exposed, and we'd see some people get fraud marched to jail. Um, I will tell you this, though, Eric. You're right about one thing. As far as the judiciary goes, I think Donald Trump and the Republican majority will definitely reshape the judiciary across the country for literally, decades to come. Um, we're already starting to see some of that with the Ninth Circuit. I think by the end of a second Trump term, we'll see a solidly conservative Supreme Court, and we'll see um, a lot of these circuit courts, like the Ninth, changed forever, or at least within our lifetimes, which would be a good thing. As far as legislation, again, that depends on the kind of individuals that we see elected to office. Um, if we can get good, solid conservatives elected to office across this country, I think we stand a good chance of seeing some real positive things being done over the next 2 to 4 years. Unfortunately, I think the Democrats are going to stay true to form. Um, I would have thought that after previous losses, they would have wised up and let the adults take over. Uh, Unfortunately, the Democrat Party has shown me that they're incapable of that. And every election cycle, they seem to get more radical and more shrill. And so I think if we see Republicans, especially if we see Republicans take over in the House, we're going to see a Democrat Party gone wild, the likes of which we have never seen before. And I would hate to think of what they would be capable of doing. Um, but I would think definitely the base will go wild. They'll go bananas. We saw that when Trump first got elected, and I think we're going to see that again in November.
If the real swing is towards a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate, aside from the judiciary, uh, I don't know much that Trump promised in his campaign other than infrastructure that has yet to be addressed.
I tend to agree with you on that. Trump has been very good about keeping his promises, and I think we're going to see that again. And I think that's one thing that's definitely that he definitely has going for him. He's made promises in 2016. He's followed through with those promises. Everything he said he was going to do, he did. And I think we're going to see more of that over the next 4 years. There's not a single one of these Democrats running who can say the same thing. Not one. Not even the ones who have been holding office, like Mike Bloomberg and some of these Democrat senators. They can't make the same claim. They can't say promises made, promises kept. None of them can.
There's nothing new on the Democratic side of the House that in the Iowa caucuses that in any of the debates that come out that makes any sense. I mean, it's a convoluted message of ridiculous spending. The confrontation that was had by the man who said, now let me understand this correctly, you're saying that you want to forgive all student loans. Well, what about us hardworking people that saved up and worked extra jobs and put the money away and paid for a college education? Are we going to get a refund?
Yeah, I love that exchange. That was excellent, and he's absolutely right on that. And you're absolutely right as well, Eric. The Democrat message has become more convoluted with each passing day. You have a base that seems to think that socialism and communism is wonderful, um, and so the Democrat Party that's what they pander to. So it's gimme, 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 and elect us, and we'll give you this, and we'll give you that, and it just on and on it goes. Racing to see who can give away the most. Who you talk to, whether it be Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren. My gosh, these people are not only communists, but they're showing themselves to be totalitarians as well.
Is there any chance that Donald Trump is not going to be reelected?
Well, there's always a chance, Eric. I mean, this is February. We're talking about November. An awful lot can happen between now and then. There's always a chance that anything can happen. But quite honestly, I think if things keep going the way they are, I think Donald Trump is definitely going to make it. However, that there's a danger in saying something like that, because if enough people start to think that, well, Donald Trump's going to win, it's a done deal, then people I'm afraid, are going to start to get complacent and not want to take any action, or think, well, I don't need to do anything because Donald Trump's going to win anyway. That's a farthest thing from our minds. That's a part of the thing that we should do. We need those who support Trump and are concerned about the future of the country need to get involved. They need to do it now, and because we can't take anything for granted. Not this far out. No. Uh-uh.
I completely agree with you. I think that's been a common theme that's in Stephen Strang's new book uh, about Donald Trump. That's our friend the parrot in the background.
Yeah.
And he's saying, what is he saying? Make America great again.
Yep. That's it.
Greater
Yeah.
than ever before.
Yep. There you go.
Uh, there were things brought up in the impeachment trial that were rather telling. While the impeachment trial was going on, it had been determined that two of the FISA warrants during the Mueller investigation were falsified by James
Right.
Comey. And that kind of got buried because of the impeachment. So you have now a corrupt Justice Department, okay, and that's under the executive branch.
Right.
So you see that there is this deep state that we've talked about for a long time, and that there is this call to investigate. Now, there was also a small byline that came through in regards to Hillary Clinton, and
Right.
that there was nothing prosecutable about her case, and that kind of got swept away
Right.
in the email scandal and the Clinton Foundation. So I don't know where that stands, and that seems just to me ludicrous that there could be tens of thousands of emails that weren't disclosed, that were on a personal server, which had confidential information on it, and James Comey
Right.
is the one who cleared that, and he's the one who falsified the FISA warrants. So it just seems like things are slipping slithery back into the days of J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, it certainly does seem that way. I think Bill Barr has his work cut out for him. Um, we're seeing, because I think partially because of the impeachment. I think the administration is so focused on trying to get things done, despite the impeachment. Um, I've said this before. This whole deep state took more than 4 years to build. This is the kind of stuff that's been going on for decades, and it's going to take a lot more than 4 years to get rid of it all, to drain it all. I mean, that's, in my mind, that's the only thing I can think of, because you're absolutely right. There's so much stuff that we're finding out about what happened in the last administration, um, and what they tried to do to Donald Trump, what they actually did to Donald Trump. Um, it's going to take a long time to root all that stuff out. And I'm hoping that if we can get Donald Trump reelected in November, and get a Republican majority back in the House, and strengthen, the Republican majority in the Senate, that maybe once and for all, we can start taking steps to getting this corruption exposed and rooted out, and start seeing people go to jail. That there's a meme on Facebook I see all the time. Um, the caption basically reads, "When are you going to start arresting someone?" Or, "For the love of God, please arrest someone." Um, I think there, I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way, Eric. I mean, it's been 4 years. We people saying we hear people saying, "Oh, any day now, people are going to start getting arrested," but nothing happens. Um, and I think that there's an undercurrent of dissatisfaction. Okay, we know this is going on. Um, we know this has happened. They've admitted to it. We found out about it. So when are we going to start seeing people get frog marched out of their offices? Um, and I think it's long overdue. The time is long overdue for that to start happening. But like I said, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to do it.
Is that something that you think that the second term of the presidency would be more of a house cleaning, more of the drain the swamp kind of focusing? He's now got the NAFTA killed. He's got the Iran situation seems to be somewhat under control. North Korea doesn't seem to be advancing like everybody, the doomsday reports have been saying. Iran doesn't seem to be the power keg that it was predicted to be. So are we going to see that now some attention can be focused on internal house cleaning?
Yeah, I hope so. I certainly hope that's the case. I know between that and filling the rest of the judiciary with good, solid judges, and working on infrastructure. Yes, I think those are the three things that the administration needs to turn to if Donald Trump does get reelected in November. I certainly believe that.
We're talking with Joe Newby of conservativefiringline.com about the state of affairs in America today from a biblical worldview. And the Conservative Firing Line is one of the great blogs that's out there that has a number of outstanding contributing journalists like Joe is, who manages it and also contributes to it. And I would encourage you to check out conservativefiringline.com for some new perspectives and insights into what's going on around America. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off with Joe, talking about impeachment, State of the Union, and the upcoming elections. We'll be right back. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heart lines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. We're talking with Joe Newby of conservativefiringline.com. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Eric. Great to be here.
Glad to have you. So this FISA abuse, turns out that spying done on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page was illegal.
Yep.
The whole thing is so bizarre. From what I understand, that Adam Schiff's sister is married to George Soros' son.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that. Yeah, there are connections between Schiff and Soros, but it turns out that the Schiff that Soros' son is married to has a different set of parents than Adam Schiff. I recall we did a post about that here some time ago. Adam Schiff's ties to George Soros revealed. And if I'm going to pull that up here because I think it's important, Eric, as much as I detest both Schiff and Soros, I believe that we owe our people, our readers, and the reading public the truth about these kinds of things.
Right.
And unfortunately, I get hit up with all kinds of things. And when I remember when I first came across that, I started looking into it. And as I recall, yes, there is a Schiff and a Soros connection, but as I recall, the person that Soros' son is married to or was married to actually has a different set of parents than the bug-eyed barrister of Burbank, if you will. So if you give me a second here, let me pull that up, because I think it's very important that we get these stories correct. So here we are. Yes, Adam Schiff's ties to George Soros revealed. Um, and it turns out, let me pull this up and I'm looking at this now. Um, blah, blah, blah. But by the way, just so everybody knows, there is a tie between Schiff and Soros, but it all has to do with campaign finance. Um, yes, there was a 2014 report from the UK Daily Mail that said Robert Soros, which is George Soros' son, um, was in the middle of a divorce from a Melissa Robin Schiff after some 20 years of marriage. But it turns out, and of course, there's, excuse me, you know how the internet goes wild with these things, right?
Right.
Oh, Schiff, Soros, ah. Um, but it turns out that Melissa Robin Schiff was actually the daughter of a Marlene F. Schiff. Schiff. Adam Schiff has a completely different set of parents than the aforementioned Melissa Schiff. So there is no connection between the two by marriage. So we can put that aside. However, there is a connection between Schiff and Soros, but it all has to do with campaign finance. It's not a familial thing. Um, in fact, let me see here. Um, yes, MoveOn.org. In fact, by 2000, MoveOn.org was raising $2 million for Democrats, which included over 100,000. It's not a familial connection at all.
Got it. So it's these sticky connections that seem to crop up all throughout politics. It's a messy business.
Yes, it is.
Politics is a messy business. Uh, so from your perspective, as this impeachment hearing has come to a point, final arguments are being made.
Right.
It requires 2/3 of the Senate to vote, meaning that even if there's Republican defectors, there aren't going to be enough Republican defectors
No.
to impeach the president. So this will go down in history as a failed coup.
Yep.
But is it really over, Joe? Or will
No.
they continue to investigate to try to find other impeachable offenses and devote their time to undermining the credibility of this president?
Democrats have already overplayed their hand, and they have already let the country know that even if Donald Trump is acquitted, that he really isn't acquitted, and that they are going to continue the never-ending impeachment of Donald Trump for for all time, as far as I'm concerned, because even after Trump is out of office in 2025, assuming that he wins this November, which I believe he will. The Democrats, there are some Democrats who have made it clear that they're even going to pursue Trump even after he is out of office. So they're never going to stop with this nonsense, Eric. Um, look at Al Green. I mean, he was introducing articles of impeachment because Orange Man bad, basically. Um, right after the Democrats took over the House of Representatives. I mean, these people have made it clear this is never ever going to stop. The only way I can see it stopping is for the voters to defeat every single Democrat running for office. That's the only way I can see that ever happening. Is for every Democrat to be kicked out of the House of Representatives. even if there's one Democrat left. I'm telling you, Eric, even if there's only one, they're going to do their best to try to impeach Trump.
You know, I always run the parallel between this, what's going on now with the Palestinians. They don't love the land of Israel, they just hate the Jews.
Right, right.
And so the Democrats don't love America, they just hate Trump.
That's pretty much it. And but you know what? I don't think they really care much for America either. I mean, they certainly don't care for the Constitution. That's why they're going after the Second Amendment. That's why they're going after the First Amendment. That's why they're going after the Electoral College. You know what's ironic about all that is, these people, when they take their oath of office in Congress, what do they promise? What do they swear to do? They swear to uphold, defend, and protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Meanwhile, they are the biggest enemies, domestic enemies, the Constitution has. At least electorally, get rid of all of them until, and keep doing so until the adults are back in control and can keep the petulant children under control.
Okay, so let's take a look at history. The only parallel we have is the Ronald Reagan years,
Right.
as the benchmark for what's happening in this presidency. Rebuilding the Defense Department, rebuilding America, bringing the economy, stimulating the economy, bringing back, and then right after that period of revival came the vultures, and it seems to be illogical as to why you would not want to continue in prosperity. What turned the tide after the Reagan years?
Well, first of all, you had the election of George W. Bush. The Democrats hated George Bush. And then you had the election of Barack Hussein Obama. And I think he is the one, over his 8 years, I think that's where you see the real metamorphosis of the Democrat Party. Now, don't take me wrong here, Eric. Even back during the age of Reagan, the Democrats were way out there, even back during the time of Reagan. Um, and as But I have to say this. I mean, even with the likes of Tip O'Neill and Tom Foley and what was his name? Oh yes, Jim Wright, Fort Worthless Jim, as Rush Limbaugh called him. Even as wackadoodle as they were nothing. They were pikers compared to this current crop of Democrats. I mean, I disagreed with about 99% of everything that Jim Wright and Tom Foley and Tip O'Neill did. But, and they were clear partisans. All of them were clear partisans. But I don't think anything they ever did or said could rise to the occasion of what we're seeing now. What we're seeing now is the Democrat Party so over the edge with hatred of Donald Trump that they are incapable, Eric, literally incapable of coherent thought.
All right, we have 4 more Trump years.
Right.
Then what happens?
Katie bar the door. Well, historically, it's very, very rare for a president's party to hold the White House for more than 2 terms. I mean, granted, it does happen. After Reagan's 2 terms, George H.W. Bush got the White House, but it's very, very rare that we see that type of thing happen. So if I The odds of a Democrat taking the White House and being a president in 2025 um, are quite high. However, we're talking, 4 years, 5 years out, and anything is possible. And we've seen so many norms get overturned with this president that, quite frankly, nothing would surprise me. Um, we could very easily have a Republican take the White House in 2024, 2025. But I'm just saying, historically, that typically doesn't happen.
So the wise play would be for the Mitch McConnells to be looking at legislation which will nail down some of these programs to be able to not be undone. Like Obamacare was easy to unravel.
Right. Relatively.
Yeah, the JCPOA was easy to pull out of. NAFTA, they said you couldn't get out of it. We got out of it. I'm sure that there are some fail-safe mechanisms that second term, and especially with the Republican-controlled House, which is the legislative body of that's pumping out the bills, should have a solid plan in place to enact new laws to protect long past this president. I mean, we've learned a lot about executive orders being able to be easily undone with the stroke of a pen. So you've got to have the legislative power to enact, so that you have to have 2/3 to overturn.
I think you need one other thing too, Eric, quite frankly. And Donald Trump I think, has made this, just his entire presidency has made this clear. You need to have a chief executive with the will and the courage to think outside the box and to do things that have never been done before. And I think that's one of the reasons why the establishment hates him so much, is because he does think outside the box. He's not your typical Washington politician. He hasn't been there for 20 or 30 years gumming up the works with his own bills. He's a man who went in there, saw a problem. He's going in and getting things done, getting things fixed, and doing things that nobody thought was ever going to be done. How many times have we heard presidents, for example, talk about moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and declaring Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel? How many? We've heard this. I don't know about you, Eric, but I've heard this, going back to the 80s with Ronald Reagan and before. But it took Donald Trump to do it. He's the one who actually did. He said, okay, you guys talked about it, but I'm doing it. And that's been a hallmark with this president for the whole past 3 years. Everybody else has talked about it. He's actually gone in and done it. And I think we're going to see that kind of governing, more of that kind of governing, if he gets reelected in November. And the challenge, I think, for both parties, I think, is going to be to find someone who can hold a candle to that. Because I think we've got a whole new benchmark now. It's not just enough that somebody has experience, in my view. They now have to show that they have the guts, the intestinal fortitude to actually do things that other people would never have done or wouldn't even think about doing.
What's your assessment of Mike Pence? As he's low key. He's not one to. He knows that Trump wants the spotlight. He wants it focused on him, and so he plays his supporting role, I think, extremely well. He's a very polished politician, very polished presenter. Are you surprised at him? Are you impressed by him? Are you seeing him play a significant role in this administration?
Absolutely, I do, Eric, and I am not at all surprised by his performance whatsoever. I watched him as as governor of Indiana, and I thought he did a very good job there as governor of Indiana. He's proven himself that he could be a chief executive when the time comes. Um, and being the kind of Christian man that he is, he's not one to try to take Donald Trump's thunder away from him. Um, I am very impressed with him, quite frankly, Eric, and I think that if there was someone who could possibly step in, um, President Pence. I could definitely live with the President Pence in 2025. Yes, I could.
I don't see. There were a couple of rising stars, and they fell off and went into media.
Right.
Which was very. Jason Chaffetz was one of them.
Yeah.
Shocking. During. He was so vocal on the floor, and
Yes.
and then stepped out of politics. I don't know.
Yes.
There has to be a story there that we don't know, because
I'm sure there is, but uh, politics. For those who have never been involved, and I know you and I have been involved in politics for quite some time, and I can tell your audience, I can tell our audience from personal experience, uh, politics takes every minute of your day. It's not an 8 to 5 job. It's not like you get up in the morning, you go in, you do your political thing for 4 hours, take a lunch break, go back and oh, don't forget your two 15-minute coffee breaks, between time. No, politics is a 24/7 game, and it can burn you out. I can't tell you, Eric, how many times um, when I was either running myself or running a campaign, everything's going crazy. I need you to come over right now. We need to, yeah, yeah. And the next thing you know, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're wrapping up, you're wrapping up a speech, or you're wrapping up this, or you're finishing that. It's a kind of lifestyle that you really have to want it, because it can burn you out in no time. So you're right. We probably don't know the whole story. I can believe when a politician says that he or she wants to spend time with their family. I can certainly believe that, because um, politics isn't something that you can just turn off at 5 o'clock on your way out the door. It just doesn't work that way.
well, it doesn't. You know, Trey Gowdy, I thought had a incredibly bright future. Was a powerhouse. Saw
Hmm.
great potential for him, and he stepped out of it.
Yeah.
He was a fireball, and with the relationship with her name escapes me right now. She was our ambassador to the United Nations and governor of South Carolina,
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. So that was his home state, and so you think about a Haley Gowdy ticket. Um,
Oh,
that would have been a powerful, powerful ticket
yeah.
uh, that has all the markings of of somebody really jumping into the executive branch,
Right.
who's been a CEO of a state, and a prosecutor that can handle that side of the House, because
Right.
it's very difficult. Commander-in-Chief, you're over the State Department, you're over the Defense Department, you're over the intelligence community. You can be a great businessman, and that'll make you great from the economy.
Right.
You don't know much about defense. You don't know much about investigations, and so you have to resurrect a Bill Barr, because he had the prior experience
Right.
in other administrations. Trey Gowdy had that, and so as you looked at these people as up-and-coming players, and he's a young guy,
Right.
55 years old, a young guy.
Oh yeah. Very young.
And steps out of it, and it just doesn't make any sense when they really were gathering. They were in the spotlight. But the future of what's going to happen over the course of the next 9 months is nothing but muck and mire and slander and dirty politics, the blame game for everything. And
Yep.
Maxine Waters, unfortunately, we'll have to hear from her for the next 9 months every day. The same way we heard from
Yep.
Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan in the past, Maxine Waters is now the new face of all things ridiculous, and excuse me, proof that there is alien life on Earth.
I tend to agree with you, Eric. I really do. But there's an upshot to this. I hear there's some people that are actually standing up to challenge AOC and Ilhan Omar. Maybe those are two mistakes that we can get corrected in November. That would be nice.
That's great. Let's hope so. Well, we thank you, Joe. We've run out of time, and as we always do, we just never have enough time, because it's almost playtime for us, because we like to catch up on both our point of views, which are usually pretty in sync, and the laughable stuff is quite laughable. So
Yes.
we thank you. We encourage people to follow Joe on conservativefiringline.com. No cost to subscribe, and get a daily news feed that's going to fill your inbox with the perspective of a conservative biblical worldview that you're not going to get elsewhere. So Joe Newby, thank you, and we look forward to the next Conservative Firing Line Hour with Joe Newby on the first Monday of the next month at the 12 o'clock hour. Joe, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next month.
God bless you as well, Eric. Good day.
Thanks. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.